It's Thursday, December 6th, Friday, December 7th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you nightly on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. If you want to listen to us live, we got our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, soon shop at our brand new store, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Insuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Go to spacedoutradio.com, click on the Insuho banner, and subscribe today. Author Varla Ventura is back with another wild and crazy edition of the weird and strange paranormal stories. This time, she brings in a Christmas theme with them. The stranger, the better for Varla, as she looks around the United States and the world for the most obscure sightings and experiences to report on. Tonight, with only a couple of weeks before Santa takes off on his sleigh, Varla joins us for those creepy little hidden stories surrounding the Christmas holiday. Hey, I didn't even realize that rhymed when I wrote that. That's actually kind of cool. You can get all of Varla's books on Amazon, any major online bookstore as well. Then in bottom of hour number 3, Olaf Phillips from Paranoia Magazine will be back with another edition of the SOR Newswire. The lovely and talented Varla Ventura. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me back, Dave. I'm excited.
Well, we had to get you back because I had one listener, Goddess Michelle on Twitter, at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. She's been nagging me in a good way. You got to do a story on Krampus. You got to do a story on Krampus. And so when we talked about it a couple months ago, we're like, we got to get into some like Christmas hauntings and stuff like that. Have some fun with the paranormal heading right before Christmas. And you're like, oh yeah, let's do it. We'll get into Krampus and everything. And I kept that secret tight from her because she was bugging me so much. And I just wanted to let it stew and fester inside of her. But nonetheless, that's how we take care of our listeners around here. So
it's a surprise for her.
Exactly.
Merry Christmas.
Well, she found out during the commercial breaks last night, so it's all right. How you been doing? Are you ready for the big day?
I'm doing great. I love this time of year. It's very, very dark here. I live north of St. Paul now, and it gets dark about, honestly, sometimes 3:30. It seems like it's getting dark. So it's definitely a different time of year, but I actually really like it. I find that this time of year I spend a lot more time writing because I'm in more, and it just inspires me to kind of reflect and start writing and reading a lot more and doing research and things like that. So I really enjoy this time of year. It's quite cold, but what can you do?
well, we are getting to the winter solstice. Yes, we are just over, 15 days until the winter solstice. So we're getting darker. We're getting darker as we speak. Yeah, around here it's starting to get dark around 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Yeah. Mrs. SOR, she grew up in the Yukon, where during this time of year she would get like 22 hours, 23 hours of darkness when you get close to the solstice. I mean, that's just terrible. Terrible. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, you need some really good reading material, a lot of backup candles and things of that nature to kind of get you through.
Isn't that the truth?
I actually interviewed a woman last year who does a lot of paranormal work in Alaska, and I sort of was interviewing her about paranormal Alaska in general, and I said what is it about Alaska? There's all of these kind of really dramatic stories, and she said, well, it's really dark and it's really cold, and it leaves a lot open to sort of other entities to make themselves known because there's not as much interference, I guess, is what she was saying, especially because she lived outside of she lived in a pretty small town. And she said, there's a lot of openness. And so because of that, there's not as much electronic and, constant distractions and traffic and all this kind of interference, and sort of allows people to perhaps have those experiences a little more frequently. But she had some really interesting stories just about living up there. Although at the end of the conversation, she did admit to me that she spends quite a bit of time in Florida now during the winter. So I guess she had her fill of the darkness.
Well, you know what? You look at Alaska, and all the big name paranormal people want to go there. But I think Alaska is one of those places where you literally got to spend at least a year or 2 or 3 just to figure it out, or at least get to the start of figuring things out. That is just one of those places where I think there's a lot more going on than what we can even comprehend. I would love to get up there one day.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. Anytime, you sort of just traipse through somewhere, we talked about this, I think, last time, is that it's difficult to just, have an experience on command. You can't just say, all right, go, come on out. It doesn't really work like that. People can do all kinds of rituals, and they have their own ways of trying to make those connections, but it doesn't, it's not really up to you. Those things come when they want to. And so to just kind of pass through as a tourist, whether it's a paranormal tourist or someone just wanting to see the beautiful sights, it can be difficult to get those really authentic experiences sometimes. And I think Alaska, that's one of the places that, not a lot of people could actually make it there for lengths of time. But I think, I think it would be fascinating to live pretty much anywhere for at least a year. And Alaska, I would have said that it wasn't really on my radar for a place to live. I would have said that to you maybe 5 years ago, but now that I've been living in Minnesota, it's like, not that much further north. Might as well just keep going.
Well, you know what? You're right on the border of Canada there. I think you're in South Canada, right there. Just south of Manitoba, in that area.
I would love to think of it that way.
South Canada. South Canada.
Yeah.
Minnesota's pretty much adopted with the amount of hockey and fishing and lakes around there.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean, we're just going to take you over.
Okay. We'll take it. We'll be happy for that. Protect us from our leader.
Varla, you are somebody who is very, very intrigued with the weird and strange, and for somebody and some of our audience, because they're always changing, who's never heard about you or your books, and maybe they're brand new to this show and they've just learned about us as well. How did you get intrigued and involved in writing about all these strange, weird creatures?
Well, I really was just one of those kids that always liked the kind of darker stories, loved fairy tales, the Grimm fairy tales and the, Anderson fairy tales that kind of had these horrific moral endings. And my mother was very open to a lot of things in the occult. So we always had interesting tarot books, and we talked about astrology, and that was, commonplace. So I think I grew up with this sort of lens that lent itself toward exploring more about folklore and mythology and creatures and magic and sort of the paranormal and the unknown. And I also had many experiences that I could not explain as a young child, as have my siblings and my mom and a lot of my extended family. So I think that because of that, I was sort of, kind of a born supernatural believer. I call myself a supernaturalist for that reason, because I do believe that I don't believe everything I read or hear or see, but I do believe in the capacity for us to have those kind of encounters and experiences, because I myself have had them. And I believe people when they tell me that they've had these experiences, and I find it fascinating. It's sort of it's like a never-ending topic, because it's kind of all still unknown, and everybody can have a unique experience with it. So for me, I just have always just kind of grown up in an environment that was conducive to the strange, I guess. And because of that, as I got older and became a writer and an editor, as more of like a paid gig, I realized that I could start writing about the things that I thought were really interesting. And, if nothing else, 10 of my friends would buy the book and my mom would buy a couple copies. And I just sort of fell into this wonderful relationship with Wiser Books, who has published all of my books. And that just evolved to, I think I have 6 books with them now. So it's been
Wonderful.
A really great relationship. Yeah.
A lot of writers don't get that opportunity to get published. It's a very difficult thing these days because the market is so competitive. I kind of relate it to the exact same thing with self-publishing for what you're going through with what we're going through with the radio scene here, where, everybody has decided they have a voice and everybody's decided to create their own podcast and or radio show. It's much the exact same thing with writers and self-publishing. How do you stand outside the boundaries of what everybody else is doing, especially in these topics and this genre, in order to get a publicist to actually pick up and print your books?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you feel passionate about what you're writing about, because if you don't, you're not going to want to promote it. And a publisher is not just looking for really nicely written words. I mean, that's the ideal, but they also are looking for an author that has the ability to, talk about what they've written. I mean, I'm not really, really great at like maintaining my website and things like that. I certainly could be a lot better at it, Facebook and all of that stuff. And that, I think a lot of writers, that's just not their forte, but you have to be open to those kinds of things. And so I think that what makes it especially competitive for writers in this day and age is that a lot of publishers want you to have what's considered a platform, like a means to promote your work, but it's difficult to get a platform if you don't have, if you're not an established authority already. So it's totally like you're just a catch-22 kind of situation. So I think the number one thing is to, just write something that you feel totally passionate about and that you can stand behind. And then, I think the other part of it is for me, I did have a brief period of time with my publisher where we did some ebooks and they were available ebook only, and they did horribly. They just did not, nobody bought them. They were they tanked, but they were really cool. It was a really cool idea. And actually I had a nice discussion with my publisher at the time and said, I think my audience values paper books, real books, holding books, and that the first 2 books that did well were the Book of the Bizarre and Beyond Bizarre, and those are these collections of facts and things like that, but they have some nice spot art inside. They have lovely covers. They're kind of a smaller size, so they stand out sort of almost like a little gift book, or so it doesn't necessarily look like all of the other books on the shelf, and I think that helped it. So when we had done this ebook project, it just wasn't taking off because there was nothing to have and hold and touch and bookmark. And so instead of just saying, oh, well, forget it, I asked if I could just take some of that material and start another book with it. And if we could just consider basically a real paper version of some of the projects that we had talked about, and some we had done and some we hadn't. And out of that, I had a couple of, I had the fairy book, the magical creature book, the mermaid book, Banshees, Werewolves, Vampires, all those kind of paranormal creatures sort of found their way into the pages, as well as my most recent book, which is Paranormal Parlor, where some of the stories that I discovered during that ebook time became sort of the foundation for what I expanded on into the newest book. So I guess because of that, I learned a lesson. Like, I really realized that I don't really have an electronic audience. I very much rely on the traditional publishing model of books getting into the hands of people. And that actually can be a challenge because that's not always, my books are available on e-readers and you can, I'm sure they look the same. I don't actually have a version of any of my books electronically, so except for my original manuscript. So I'm assuming that the art looks great and all of that, but by and large, I think the paper. So that was just I guess my point is that was a lesson for me that, I tried this kind of new genre and it just didn't suit me. Now, other authors are like audiobooks and ebooks and, they do really well with those. But that wasn't the case for me. So I guess that's the other part of it is just figuring out what actually works for you, your personality, your audience, and the kind of thing that people want or expect from you.
I have a lot of writers on this show who say they write books because this is the way they get their research out. This is the way they get their value out of what they have done, culminating in a printed manuscript, so to speak, whether it's, UFOs, ghosts, and there's people who've written, 20, 25 books out there, and they're not even eking out a living because the big hot topic about it is since the advent of self-publishing, it's really, really pushed hard on the amount of competition that is out there, especially for these strange and weird topics. How have you been able to kind of survive on that? Because the big question is, are people still buying books? The younger generation, they're more of a headline type crowd anymore. Does anybody pick up books anymore? It's too bad because I really enjoy books.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think the other part to that is that, as far as hot topics go, self-publishing, if you've got your work done, your book will be done, it'll be done and available on Amazon within months. Whereas with traditional publishing, it can take a year. Sometimes, they can crank it out a little faster if all of a sudden, something happens. But typically speaking, it takes about a year from turning in the manuscript to having a printed book. And while my books aren't, they're not lying off the shelves, they've done fairly well. And I think that the challenge is, okay, here's this trending topic, and this is the challenge in publishing. Here's what's hot now, but you've got to predict what's going to be hot in a year. Now, as a writer, I don't think that's not your job. I think your job is to write what you think is cool, what you want to write about, and, hope it catches on. Now, sometimes you might be asked to write something that's like your dream, right? It's like, oh, could you write this book for us about UFOs or whatever? That happens to a lot of writers, especially in the paranormal world. They're sort of, they'll co-author with other people and write a ton of stuff. But with self-publishing, it does kind of turn things on its head, especially now because it used to be that you could tell a self-published book a mile away. I still can. I can always tell when a book is self-published by the way the cover feels.
Yes,
but
me too.
It doesn't necessarily look... They've come a long way, and you've got a lot of like freelance graphic designers who are, willing to just take a little portion of royalties or whatever, and you're not with print on demand, which is something that Amazon offers here and in Canada, that you basically, as someone orders your book, it gets printed. And so there's no inventory. So there's a lot of the model makes sense from sort of a financial point of view.
Right.
But it's definitely that kind of, it's a tricky one to really, I guess all I can say is that, don't worry about what everybody else is writing yet. Write your book, and then you can do all your market research and say, oh, well, this book did well. But I think for me, one of the reasons that I've gotten away with doing so many books with this publisher is that they kind of have a thing to them. They have a style to them, which the publisher has contributed greatly to because they hired wonderful designers who kind of took the first couple of books and played around with that. So they are visually attractive. And so that helps me from going out of print, I guess, because my books have a little bit of a gift quality. They make an excellent Christmas gift, by the way. Anyone out there looking for unusual stocking stuffer?
Exactly. And, we only got about a minute and a half before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Is it cool to call yourself a writer? When we look at titles, and I've been on titles for about the last week and a half here, and I'm not going to get into why because it's going to send me on a long diatribe. But is it cool to be able to call yourself a published author or a writer when you meet people and they say, oh, well, what do you do for a living?
Oh, yeah, it's real cool. I mean, I wanted to be a professional writer since I could write, really. I mean, since I was 6 or 7 years old. I used to do, those exercises where you're supposed to sit outside and write all your observations, and kids would be writing a page or two, and I would write 7 or 8 pages. So I knew that was something that I loved and I enjoyed. And it took me a long time to become a published author. It took me, I guess, probably 12 years of really, really actively trying to get myself on track to actually become a published author, to learn enough about my own self, my own writing style, publishing, what was going on in the publishing world and all of that, and working as an editor most of the time, which gave me a lot of insight into what people were writing about and how people were pitching their stories and things like that. I was an intern at a book publisher for a good chunk of time, unpaid, mind you. I was paid in books.
Oh yeah.
But
oh, yeah.
I was paid in knowledge and learning about what was happening in the publishing world at the time. And
yes.
So yeah, for me, it's definitely something I don't walk around going, hey everybody, I'm a writer, but I definitely, if someone asks me, I do tell them.
You enjoy it.
That's what I am.
You enjoy it.
I mean,
Varla, I got to get you to hold on here. We're going to take a break here, and then we're going to come back. Krampus, Christmas Stories with Varla Ventura coming up next on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. We are talking with paranormal author Varla Ventura out of the great state of South Canada, Minnesota. And yes, we are claiming you because there's way too many hockey players down there. Varla, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. So excited to talk Christmas paranormal with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been already an exciting half an hour.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Now, we're going to get into it because I got a lot of people at this time of year. They're always talking Krampus. And I got to tell you, I'm a little bit of a Krampus virgin here. Because, A, I've never done a Krampus show. And B, up until I got into doing this 4 years ago, I had no clue on what a Krampus was. And I thought it was just a paranormal insult to the Christmas holidays. I didn't know this was a huge thing in Europe. So for those of us who are absolutely ignorant to what the Krampus is, and I am one of them, define this holiday creepy tradition.
With pleasure. So Krampus is basically a half man, half goat kind of hairy beast with giant horns, talons, and usually fierce glowing eyes. The name Krampus actually comes from the German word Krampen, which means claw, which I think must have something to do with Santa Claus. Now, because he's often depicted as half goat and half man, there's a lot of association now, especially there are more imagery that depicts Krampus looking like a devil. But traditional Krampus is this very furry beast and certainly looks more bear or Bigfoot-like in many ways. Krampus is sort of the other half of the Krampusnacht is December 5th, and St. Nicholas Night is December 6th, or St. Nicholas Day. And so St. Nicholas was, supposed to be this benevolent saint, man who became sainted, who was known for being incredibly generous and looking after children. And there's a couple of gruesome stories I'll be happy to tell you about him. But essentially, he became the patron saint of children. And eventually, some of the traditions of Santa Claus and this sort of magical elf-like creature and St. Nicholas merged into what we think of today as Santa Claus. But back to Krampus. If Santa's the one that brings you candy, Krampus is the one that doesn't just deliver coal. Krampus will kidnap you, throw you in a burlap sack, and beat you with switches. This is what Krampus is supposed to do. And Krampus, in fact, even here in St. Paul, Minnesota, there's a Krampus that appears at the German Christmas market down at the Union Depot. And if you go on certain nights, a large, hairy beast will roam through the crowds and sort of, tag at people and torment small children. So just a warning. And the idea behind Krampus is basically the same idea that, if you're not well behaved, you will not only will you not get something good, but you will be punished for it. So that's kind of the basic Krampus. Krampus totally still Krampus traditions are practiced today. There are parades in which many Krampus run through the town and kind of terrorize. There are many cultures with something similar to Krampus in their tradition, all of which take place around the winter solstice or during the winter holiday time. And they all have kind of very similar appearance, often depicted in like heavy bear skins or long fur, somewhat goat-like, sort of a hybrid creature. And I think that Krampus really comes from some very early pagan and shamanistic rituals that were used for magical purposes to keep the darkness at bay and bring in the light of the year, and were mistaken for something particularly evil. And these kind of became a way of reinforcing the idea that Saint Nicholas was the good one. That's the nutshell.
Okay. So with that history, I mean, this is a legend that's going back over 500 years.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some real tradition to this.
Yes, and there was certainly a period of time, especially in Europe, when Krampus was sort of had to go in hiding. Certainly during World War II and post-World War II, when a lot of cultural beliefs were heavily suppressed. And of course, earlier than that, some of the traditions, like in Ireland, there's the sort of mummers. They're called the mummers, or sometimes referred to as the Wren boys, and they're pretty common in Northern Ireland. But also, I've been in a couple of towns like in the Dingle Peninsula in Ireland where I've seen these sort of costumes, and they're very similar in the sort of hairy Krampus way, but they're all made out of straw. And they are part of a ritual. Sometimes they run through the town and, make noise, and the children all hide from them. But it's all part of a ritual that traditionally goes back to the harvest and sort of ensuring that the harvest, that evil spirits were pushed away. We're going into the darkness of winter. We're going to bring on the light, and we're going to have a good harvest in the new year.
Why terrorize the kids, though? I mean, Christmas is supposed to be all about the children, and yet this creature is supposed to really take care of the bad ones, swat them around a little bit, give them a good shaking or something along those lines.
Well, Krampus, certainly the modern, and by modern I mean, the last 150, 200 years of Krampus, definitely has that going after children kind of, there's all these postcards showing, I don't know if you've ever seen any of these, but especially during the Victorian era, they became very popular. And basically it looks a bit like a devil holding a child, but it wasn't always and isn't always just children. Of course, women were often kidnapped. Now that, I think that there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I think that, any time you have these sort of extreme examples of folklore, where there's this bogeyman or something kind of out there, often they are used as like moral leverage within the village or the town or, the clan or whatever you have. So a way of sort of regulating people's behavior and, serving as a warning and a visual sort of interactive warning. So I think that that's one part of it. And, parents have notoriously told their children of the boogeyman and the creature in the swamp and all of those things in order to protect them and keep them a little closer to the hearth that night, especially at a time of year when it's incredibly dark and cold. And a child wandering around and not listening. And also people have cabin fever, right? So you've got to have a way to keep your kids in line. So, but it hasn't always been that way. And not all of the Krampus and Krampus-like creatures are all about kidnapping and doing the devil's work. In fact, some of them are quite the opposite, and they are the ones that bring the benevolence and are the gift givers. So some of it, I think, is the interpretation, especially when St. Nicholas was really pushed as being the patron saint of giving and children. This pagan deity needed to be viewed as something negative. And so because of that, there was more of a juxtaposition. At the same time, I think in any tradition, whenever you have these sort of origin stories or important stories that regulate the society, you're always going to have the good versus evil, the good cop, the bad cop. So some of it, I think, really evolved out of a complete lack of understanding of what these sort of creatures and these rituals were. And I have actually a bit of an example here of some other ideas about Christmas and the Christmas time and the Christmas season, just to sort of kind of flavor why why this creature was so extreme, why Krampus is so extreme, and why the idea of something coming out of the woods like this could exist. So Krampus is especially in Germany, but in other parts of the world, one of the most terrifying creatures actually is in Greece. And that is this horrifying thing called and I'm going to read it because I always get the name wrong. It's called the Karkankansoroi, or sometimes called the Kalikansoroi. And this is perhaps one of the most disturbing of Krampus-like beasts. Half human, half animal, a monstrosity that plays tricks and ravages households, often leaving the occupants dead. Now, Krampus is much more of a trickster, jokester type guy. I mean, yeah, he's depicted as, switching the children, but how often, maybe it used to happen a lot more often, but this creature was actually to sort of ravage through households and bring death and sometimes dismemberment. But all of these go back to the idea of sort of there being a lot of high witchery and high magic around this time of year. I think we spoke of this a little bit, but you see this with of course, with Halloween, the Halloween season. We're going into the darkness and the veil is thinning, and so people are trying to kind of keep the darkness or the sorrow or the that all-consuming feeling at bay and get them through to the light after the solstice. So I think because of that, there are a lot of beliefs of like the 12 days of Christmas, that's basically the 12 days following Christmas Day and the days that follow, as being a time when the veil is actually at its thinnest as we are turning more toward the light. And I have a little excerpt here from a Scandinavian writer who wrote about Christmas Eve and saying that on Yule night, no one should go out, for he may meet uncanny beings of all kinds. In Sweden, the trolls are believed to celebrate Christmas Eve with dancing and revelry. On the heath, witches and little trolls ride, one on a wolf, another on a broom or a shovel, to their assemblies, where they dance under the stones. In the mounts are then to be heard mirth and music, dancing and drinking. And the idea was that if you were to go out on this night, you would encounter a Scandinavian Christmas troll, which might trick you into the fairy kingdom or lead you to cavort with witches. So, which sounds probably pretty good to a lot of your listeners. Certainly doesn't sound all that bad to me. But there were a lot of ideas about this kind of dark magic happening during this period of time, and that the way to protect your family and to protect yourselves was to light candles, put lights around your home, light the Yule log, and then also make offerings, i.e. milk and cookies. You would offer things to these little creatures that were out there running about on this very, very dark night, and you would make sure that they just took their little cookie and passed on. They took their little sip of wine and passed on and didn't stay to torture you and your livestock and your family.
I never associated Krampus with death. I thought it was just giving the kids a bunch of coal, to be honest with you.
Well, now that is part of the kind of, Santa leaving coal in North America. We have the Santa that comes and he leaves coal in your stocking if you've been a bad kid. In Germany, Krampus will leave that, but there's a lot more to the idea of him kind of the origins. And that one creature that is very Krampus-like is particular to parts of Greece and some areas in the Mediterranean. But I guess the point is that there are these other kind of beings. Now, that's the written record that we have. If we could talk to somebody 500 years ago and hear from the, oral tradition what these creatures were, they'd probably say, you're just blowing this out of proportion. We're actually, and I mean, the thing is that all around the world, there are these, what we think of as maybe disturbing or frightening images of people donning these costumes that are Krampus-like, that are bear skin or heavy goat skin with crazy horns and, just all kinds of strange things sticking off. And the idea, I think, that has to do with transforming yourself and becoming a bit of a, going from human to shape-shifting into this supernatural entity that can actually, by getting in touch with that, you can actually find protection and safety for the rest of your clan, the rest of your people. And you see that quite often in many, many traditional cultures. That and when I was researching werewolves, I saw that again and again, these parallels between some of these, a shaman and their ritual. And a shaman is a healer. A shaman is not meant to terrify or terrorize. But, there are a lot of people that came and saw, indigenous and pagan cultures and didn't understand what they were seeing. And so recorded it in a way that led us to be terrified. That being said, I do think that there are, I want it on record that I do believe there are terrifying beasts out there.
Obviously, Krampus is of legend, but especially in Europe, where people have said that they have seen all sorts of weird creatures over there, has anybody ever tried to claim that they have seen the actual Krampus? Because I'm wondering, with something like this, it could be, and the energy that's put into it, it could easily become some sort of tulpa.
So there are examples of people, there are accounts of people sort of describing an encounter, and it's not unlike, it reminds me a little bit of something that is Bigfoot-like, and it's almost as if by dressing as this thing, just as on Halloween, you dress like a witch or you dress like a ghost so that you can pass among the quote-unquote evil spirits undetected. In that same way, if you were able to sort of don the costume of this supernatural creature that your town is fearing, it's a way of exorcising that demon. But there are some accounts of people seeing something that, they were out too late at night, or, they sort of had a story to tell about being, waking up in a ditch and things like that. But in more recent times, I don't think there have been as many people saying, oh yeah, I saw this thing. But there are, especially in parts of, up in Lapland and parts of sort of Northern Europe, there are stories that don't go back terribly far that talk of seeing things and experiencing things out in the woods that don't, that sort of defy a lot of explanation. And certainly when I was researching werewolves, I found a lot of examples of that where, some of it definitely comes from rituals. And in Iceland and in Norse cultures, we had the berserkers who would drink from a cup and sort of go mad, and they would be covered in skins, and they would have this sort of fierce warrior attire. And, that's where the term going berserk comes from, because they would work themselves up into a battle frenzy that was so intense, they often just terrified their enemy without having to even fight, because they were just had this ferocious kind of werewolf-like energy. And so I think that you have a lot of animalistic qualities that are transferred over into these, into the fears of the people who were, wandering around trying to convert them. And they're the ones who are writing the record down. So I definitely think there's some misinterpretation there with what the intent was behind a lot of this. I think a lot of it was really tied to the season and the harvest and the protection of the people and their food and the crops, which was how you protected people.
Well, let me put it this way then, with children, because we only got about a minute left here before we're going to go to break, and we'll talk more Krampus after the break. But with children, are they still fearing this monster today as they would have, say, 550 years ago when this legend was born, or are they fearful of anything around Christmas, of being bad? Or do they know it's just a legend and enjoy the festivities of when Krampus comes to town during the parades now?
Well, I'm sure there are children, especially in Germany, that live in fear of that night. I mean, when you see a traditional Krampus wandering through the night market, it's really scary. I mean, it's like running into a Bigfoot with horns. I mean, it's pretty scary. But I think like anything, it's softened. The approach is probably softened quite a bit. And as far as, German folklore goes, that's probably a good thing. I don't know if you've ever read any traditional German fairy tales, but they often end in a lot of brutality toward children, including cutting appendages off and things like that. So I think that has probably softened in time in the modern era.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. More Krampus talk with Varla Ventura after the break in hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio coming up next.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the first Friday of the month, which means the Woo Train is back. Our Keith Andrews with another edition of the ET Connection, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cryptorchidism. Oh my God, I may have got that. Cryptorchidism is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You could rock out to Bumblefoot, soon shop at our brand new Spaced Out Radio store, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight we are talking Krampus, Christmas paranormal stories, author, and weird seeker. Varla Ventura joins us on the show tonight. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We should mention that all your books are available on books in every bookstore around, as well as online at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So, let's get to it. Krampus. I got a question from Michael in the chat room. We call him Pen Man around here because he likes his pen.
Cool.
Literally, he likes his pens. And but he collects them fountain pens. That. Yeah, he's actually got quite a nice collection.
I'm a pen thief myself, actually. You've got to watch me around pens, so
yeah,
I can respect that.
I'm a Uniball 207 kind of guy, so nothing else is satisfying. But that's just me.
I know.
Blue or black, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, blue or black. Michael is asking, do you think there is any sort of relationship between Krampus and Sasquatch?
You know, that's a great question, because earlier this evening, as I was staring out into the darkness and the new moon with no light, I was thinking about Krampus and, what would I do if I, were walking along the street and suddenly some giant hairy beast came running down the street. And it made me just think of Sasquatch stories, Bigfoot stories, a story I heard recently from the area that I grew up in California, up in the Northern California foothills, about sort of a giant race of hairy men and, they were male and female, but mostly they were male, and they would come and often raid homes and steal the women, and not usually the children, but usually the women were ones who were stolen. And I was just sort of thinking about how, around the world we have, especially in areas that are, or at one time were heavily wooded, we have these sort of hairy, elusive creatures that, are somewhat bear-like or somewhat wolf-like. And I think they are all related. And I don't know if that means that they're all sort of, evolved from some kind of same supernatural species, or if it means that the stories were born out of the same ideas, the same fears, the same moments of terror, or, sometimes I think that a lot of it can be, the fisherman's tale. Well, it was this big and it pulled me down, and that's why it got away. It was like, no, that was not just a bear. I'm not afraid of a regular old bear. This was some sort of, 7-foot tall, hairy creature that, is set here to terrorize us. So, I think that's a really good question. I do think there's a relationship, at least in terms of, humans and culture. I think there's definitely a relationship between Sasquatch, Bigfoot, other kind of beings like the Krampus and the Ketzkenroll and all of these kind of crazy hairy beasts. I just actually put up on my Facebook page, if anybody wants to go take a look, a story that I've actually kind of bookmarked from years ago because I just love it, and it's images of sort of winter pagan ritual costumes. And there's some pretty scary ones. There's a bear that's, I think, from the Pyrenees that looks like some sort of terrifying horror movie creature with like a sack-like head with just sort of teeth on it and a big hairy body. But I want to go back to something about the sort of misinterpretation of the intent of what some of these rituals and ideas were, and how that fed into kind of the modern idea that it was like, that Krampus was a devil or that Krampus was evil. We've heard the term scapegoat, and Krampus is often depicted as half goat. Many of these creatures are. And there's a long-standing relationship and association with witchcraft and the belief that witches were in cahort with goats. But that goats themselves also are thought to possess some supernatural qualities. In fact, I wrote a little essay called The Occult Power of Goats, and that is an excerpt from one of my books. And the idea is that there was this wonderful man named William Wirt Sykes who was the U.S. consulate in Wales, and he spent a lot of his time getting to know the culture and the people. And of all of the sort of, Victorian era accounts that I've read, including, William Butler Yeats and the way that he retold some of the folk tales of the Irish peasantry, as he called it, I found that William Wirt Sykes, he actually bothered to learn to speak Welsh. He seemed to have I believe he married a woman, so he seemed to have a real reverence for the culture, and so that comes across in his writing. But he talks about things that, he writes down these things that people who have lived them their whole lives might not think them particularly extraordinary because it's, a normal way of life. But for him as an outsider, he recorded them, and one of them was the occult power of goats, and the idea that goats were very powerful and actually had this keen ability to observe humans and sort of pass judgment on them from the hills. If anybody's ever been around goats, little ones are cute, but older goats can be they can stare you down. They're could be a little bit creepy. If you feel like they're judging you, for sure. I felt judged by goats. But there's this relationship with goats being sort of supernatural entities and having this kind of otherworldly quality. And in fact, there's this wonderful old Welsh folktale about a man who has this goat that he's very fond of and absolutely loves and just sort of babies, and it's just like his prize goat. And at some point, something happens to the goat, and the goat, I think he gets mad, and the goat does something he doesn't like, or I don't know, but he basically, the goat ends up falling over this cliff. And he suddenly realizes, my prized goat, and he rushes down there and is sort of holding this dying goat. And as he's holding this dying goat, she's transformed into this fairy woman. And so there's this strong connection between the fairy folk and a creature like a goat. Just as we have the Pooka in Ireland, which is often depicted as a horse or a bunny, a rabbit. And this is something that is sort of a shape-shifting kind of idea that it can, and it's a trickster, and it's kind of there to sort of mess with your sense of well-being and complacency, or your your feelings of peace and calm, sort of there to add a little panic. And so I do think that as we look at some of the sort of modern evolution of these supernatural beasties, we have to take into account that once upon a time, these were, whether they were people dressing up as these other creatures in order to create a better environment or to connect with nature or to ask help of the, Odin or the Great Spirit, those kind of things are universal. But we do have this sort of need to blame something. And I think that it's not a mistake that Christmas falls right around the solstice, that St. Stephen's Day is the day after, it's the 26th, that St. Nicholas Day is the day after Krampusnacht, that during this time when all of these other rituals, the Yule rituals, were taking place, as Catholicism spread and Christianity sort of repositioned that story and the origin stories, a lot of the subtle nuances of the indigenous ideas were sort of plowed over and kind of put in a position to become dark, evil, black, furry, devilly goat-like things, when in fact they may not have ever that might not have ever been the original intention. I think what we think of as Krampus today, the intention was to kind of level against the benevolence of someone like Santa Claus. And that's how he's kind of seen as sort of the antithesis of him. But what's beautiful about that is that in spite of all of the years and the, misinterpretations and the evolution of what something like a Krampus is, he's still running rampant in the streets in Germany in 2018. There's a Krampus that probably ran down the middle of the street in some village as part of the holiday celebrations, and so it still endures in whatever form it takes today. So that's my rant.
Not a problem. I got a comment from Renee in New Zealand for you. She says, Varla, thank you. I am very much enjoying your books completely.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Excellent.
She won a contest. I know who that is, I believe. She won a contest, and so she received my latest book, Paranormal Parlor, and because she's in New Zealand, I had to send her my Among the Mermaids book, because there are a couple of stories in there that specifically relate to New Zealand and the relationship with mermaids. So thank you for reaching out.
Not a problem. Not a problem. With Krampus, in regards to the legends, why do you think over the last few years especially it has really seemed to take off in North America as part of like the occultish tradition of bringing this forward, almost as the antithesis to Christmas and Santa Claus, or the whole religious Christ factor of being Jesus's celebratory birthday?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's definitely, Krampus has been heavily embraced in the alternative, like, weirdo crowd for sure, and has been for a number of years. That's definitely, I remember when I lived in San Francisco, there was a little bar that always did a Krampusnacht, and you would go down there and, someone would be dressed as Krampus, and that was kind of the first time I had ever seen a Krampus, and was, quite delightfully disturbed by it. I think that there's been a cultural shift, and really, since probably it's kind of the Harry Potter phenomenon, where children are growing up with a healthier sense of magic and witchery as being something positive, rather than being something that they're not allowed to talk about and that the book should be burned. So I think because of that, there's been a little bit more of embracing of something so devil-like or so different. And especially at a time, I think that this time of year can be very difficult, and that's important to remember as, we're celebrating and we're thinking of our loved ones, and we're shopping and we're putting up our lights and all these things, that for a lot of people, this is a very lonely time of year. It's a time when we miss people that aren't here with us anymore. It can be a very difficult time of year. And so to have something that sort of infuses this sort of wicked sense of humor and isn't just about benevolence and doing good and feeling good and paying it forward. And I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being generous and kind and compassionate, of course. But sometimes, you know, you got to unleash your inner Krampus. I mean, sometimes you just feel grumpy and you just want to just not be jolly and not celebrate the magic of the season. You want to run through the streets half naked with a set of horns on your head. I mean, sometimes you just got to get it out of your system. Why not?
I get that, though. But today's Krampus, would you call it a shot towards maybe the commercialism and the financial backlash against big corporations and big budget companies who are promoting the hell out of Christmas? I mean, let's face it, Halloween's not even over and Christmas decorations are up at places like Walmart, and that offends a lot of people because we're not even past Remembrance Day or Veterans Day down there. And it's to me, I refuse to shop anywhere before November 11th because I think it's an insult to do that when we should be getting ready to pay respects to veterans. But the stores don't care. It's all about profit and capitalism and money. Not there's anything wrong with capitalism, but in the end, is it a cheap shot towards the commercialism of Christmas? Is that the main reason why, especially here in North America, you think it's maybe taking off?
Krampus is our patron saint, right? It's like, okay, he's our, you know, here's our alternative, and it's not all roses this time of year. It's not all, you know, Christmas carols. But I do think that is part of Krampus became more popular in North America, in the United States and in Canada, as well as in parts of England started during the Victorian era, when Krampus was depicted in, like, sort of, you know, how the Victorians would do those sort of cartoons that were like almost racy because something kind of almost inappropriate was happening, like a woman was showing her ankle, and so Krampus started appearing in postcards kind of that nature, where there'd be a, you know, woman in an Edwardian nightgown tossed over the shoulder of a very red-looking devil. And there'd be holly and ivy and things like that. So it was clear that it was, you know, the Yule season and the Christmas season. And I think that, you know, the Krampus has been around, of course, but I would say that the popularity of Krampus and Krampus kind of, you know, resurfacing as a cultural icon definitely gives you something. It's amusing. It's an antidote to, it's bringing a little of the Halloween into Christmas instead of the other way around, right? So there's definitely, I think, a reason that especially people who, like people who are younger than me, who, you know, they were born into a world where Harry Potter existed, they're going to be more open to supernatural creatures and otherworldly beings, and they're going to think those things are cool and fun, and I think that contributes to the popularity of it. And I am not saying that as a criticism. That makes me very happy. You know, I'm happy that I have a child who is raised in a world that is not burning books about witches for the most part. not every day anyway, you know. So I think I think you're right that it's definitely a sort of a way of saying, hey, guess what? Oh, you're enjoying the Christmas holidays? Oh, that's nice. Just be careful because, you know, Krampus might come and steal you and beat you with, you know, a bundle of sticks or something, and then, you know, try saying that at Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, Varla, I guess what I'm kind of going for here is there are a lot of people out there as they move away, and there's a lot of people who are sick and tired of, you know, holiday trees, holiday lights, happy holidays, season's greetings. We're not allowed to say Merry Christmas publicly. I remember when I was at my radio station, there was a note from head office in Toronto sent to all radio stations across Canada saying, please use season's greetings or happy holidays as not to offend anybody, by saying Merry Christmas. Now, a bunch of us thought that was absolute crap. We said Merry Christmas anyways. Nonetheless, it's what the head office wanted. And we see a lot of people, trying to change Christmas holidays into happy holidays. And a lot of people are offended by that. They don't want a holiday tree. They're tired of that political correctness when other religions, other people of faith get to celebrate their holidays without changing names. Now, I'm not trying to make this into a big Christian bashing or us versus them type style, but there's a lot of people out there who are trying to adjust to whatever fits them. Not that it's a bad thing, but is it a fact of that it could be, here in North America, an insult to what Christmas and the Christmas tradition used to be, but from a darker point of view?
So like a deliberate insult? Is that what you mean? Is it becoming popular because it's sort of a deliberate insult?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Krampus is as popular. I don't think Krampus is that popular yet. Now, by this time next year, that could be very different. I think Krampus is more popular than he has been in a number of years and is appearing, especially in traditional, like I said, my example of our little German Christmas market that we have here, you'll see Krampus. But what's interesting about that is that Krampus actually in traditional Germany, Krampus supports the idea of St. Nicholas being benevolent and supports the idea of Santa Claus being the hero. So he's certainly not viewed as like a slap in the face toward Christmas. It's actually part of the Christmas tradition and has been for hundreds of years in various forms. And so, but in North America, we have a Christmas that is sort of, we're this melting pot of all of these different places and a lot of immigrants from different countries. And we have, what our traditional Christmas, which is, this Christmas tree and the, presents under the tree and all the things in the holiday songs.
Right.
But what I think is shifting more so than like maybe a little bit less of a we're not going to take it and a little bit more of a understanding that there are so many other points of view and so many other traditions that take place at this time of year.
Yeah.
And so Krampus is embraced because it's a new, kind of a new, different thing.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on. We are through 90 minutes. We're coming back with more Christmas paranormal stories right after this on the mighty SOR.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
It's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
We've passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Author Varla Ventura is with us. We are talking Christmas, paranormal traditions around the holidays, and so much more. You can find all of Varla's books online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and in your local bookstores as well. Varla, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. We're happy that you are happy to be here. Now, we've spent the last hour and a bit talking about the Krampus, and thank you for filling us in on that. I feel educated now. I actually do, because I didn't really know what the hell it was. I was in the blind with it. But you also have found a number of other Christmas-type paranormal stories, weird, strange legends, occurrences. How easy are those to find out there?
Well, I think if you know, if you kind of know some of the names of some of the creatures, you can do a little, Google search and you can find some information. But if you want to find the stories that those things are based on, one thing that I never use Wikipedia as a source, because anyone can actually edit Wikipedia, so there's no way of verifying that it's
right,
a true source. But what Wikipedia is wonderful for is scroll down to the bottom and look at the citations and the sources from there, and that will give you an amazing reading list that you can start from. And so that's part of the way that, for me, with, Krampus did lead to some of these other creatures, but also just sort of a general study of elves and gnomes and trolls and things of that nature led me to some of the other Christmassy type or Yule season type little creatures. And I have contemplated for a number of years the iconic Santa Claus that we have, and how very much he looks like a little gnome or a troll, and he's even called a right jolly elf. And so the idea of one of the things that I stumbled upon when I was working on my book Fairies, Pookas, and Changelings that surprised me was this description of a leprechaun. Now, I had in mind a pretty same idea of a leprechaun as most people do, that it's, this little guy, kind of miserly with his money, has a bowler hat and a little vest and, probably little elfin shoes, and wears a lot of green because he's associated with Ireland. Traditionally in Ireland, leprechauns don't wear green. In fact, the green coat and that sort of attire is something that you would see in an Irishman who was an immigrant to the United States in like the 1880s or whatever. So I was actually rereading this bit about leprechauns that I had written a number of years ago, and was really thinking about how very much the description sounded like Santa Claus. And I reread it a couple of times just to be sure, because I don't know that I really drew this parallel when I wrote this passage. What I was so taken with was the fact that this leprechaun had other attributes and other other attire than I had as a visual in my mind. And it really made me feel that leprechauns were, just as real as an elf or a fairy or a Pooka or a goblin, whereas I think leprechauns were kind of always dismissed as like this sort of ridiculous, not real thing. And one of the things, anyway, so I found this description that is actually taken from a man named David Rice McAnally. And he was a friend of, kind of all that, the early Irish folklore recorders. And actually William Butler Yeats was often quoting McAnally when he was writing some of his most known fairy and folk tales. And so he has this wonderful description of a leprechaun, and he actually describes in one of the things, he describes, they call him actually the luricon. That's sort of the Gaelic word for leprechaun, which I'm probably completely butchering. The luricon is a fat, pursy little fellow whose jolly round face rivals in redness the cutaway jacket he wears that always has 7 rows of 7 buttons in each row, though what use they are has never been determined, since his jacket is never buttoned, nor indeed can it be, but falls away from a shirt invariably white as snow. And it kind of goes on to just sort of describe he's got a bit of a uniform on. In another one, he's wearing white breeches and black stockings and shoes that have a shine to them. So I realized that, leprechauns were associated with red, and I was thinking, boy, that sure sounds an awful lot like a little, roundy, jolly little Santa Claus-like creature. And likewise, you have something like the tomten or the nisi, which are very similar. The nisi are from Finland, and the tomten are from other parts of Scandinavia, I think Norway. But they're both sort of the Scandinavian. Sorry, I got that backwards. I think the tontu is the Finnish, and the nisi is the Scandinavian Norwegian version. And basically these are little magical little elves, like gnomey creatures. They're usually depicted with like a pointy hat, pointy red hat, sometimes black, sometimes green, but typically during this time of year you'll see them, they'll be red. They have these long white beards, and they have a very kind of Santa Claus-like vibe to them, but they're small. They're not a big guy who comes down the tree and carries these things around. They're pretty small. They're often 2 to 3 inches high, or sometimes maybe half a foot high. And these little creatures now you can find decorations that look like them, and they are good luck. You bring them into your home. They bring protection to your family. They bring good luck and health and wellness during the holiday season. And you have many, many little gnomes and creatures like that, and elves that are there to provide your family with some good luck and wealth and health and happiness during this time of year, all of whom in order to make them happy, you make an offering. And so, you leave them their offering. So again, you have this red-hatted fellow with a white beard who requires, some amount of food in order to sort of, ensure your good luck in the season. You also have house fairies and little, goblins and things like that, and brownies and Wales, and often hobgoblins in sort of parts of England, and very similar, although they had a little bit more of a mischievous side. You would leave them a little offering, and they would keep your house tidy and take care of things for you. And again, you see these sort of origins of our modern day Santa Claus, and in terms of the visual, you see this big beard. You also have, of course, Saturnalia, which is also the 6th of, I believe it's the 6th of December. It's around the same kind of during this holiday season. And Saturn is, a big, long, white, bearded guy, as is Odin. And Odin was also, the Norse god was, although he is often associated with being, the fierce god who oversees the warriors, he was known to deliver treats to children this time of year. So you have all of these kind of, in fact, one of the names for Odin was Yolner, which means Yule or master of Yule. So he had a strong association, and he would actually, get this, he would go down chimneys. Odin would go down chimneys, and he would leave gifts, and often he would leave them in shoes. In Germany, and I have a dear friend who's German, and every year she and her son do this. They don't hang stockings. They put their shoes out. And I said, what are you doing? She said, this is what we do. We put our shoes out, and Santa Claus leaves treats in the shoes. And that was something that you did. You shined your shoes and you put it out, and that's what they do every year. So you have a lot of these sort of kind of crossover creatures that gave rise to, something more like the modern day Santa Claus.
I used to have a real fear of gnomes, but I am now one. I am now one with the gnomes. I've had to change my ways. Yes, I have had to, because David Weatherly had a serious conversation with me that gnomes don't like to be insulted or put down or threatened or defiled in any sort of way.
And you would have that terrifying gnome encounter with your daughter, right?
Yes. So I have decided that I am going to be one with the gnomes, and I am very, very much happy with that decision.
Saying it really loud so all the gnomes can hear you.
As I stare out my window, looking to make sure there are no pointy hats running around, Honestly, I think seeing a little gnome running past my window would terrify me more than seeing another alien.
So are you then chilling with your gnomies? Is that what you're saying?
Always.
Okay.
Always chilling with the gnomies. But on the flip side, we don't hear a lot of gnome stories here. There are a few. But over in Europe, the gnomes, the trolls, the pixies, the fairies, they take those legends and lore very, very seriously. There are areas in Iceland and Ireland that you are not even allowed to go into because that's protected territory for them. Now, over here, we're like, sure, they're doing that. No, in Iceland, they're actually moving roads to protect any types of fairies or gnomes that are hidden around certain parkland type areas. I mean, they take it very seriously, Varla.
Yes. Well, I think that's probably wise because, for one thing, gnomes, fairies, goblins, these creatures traditionally are not just associated with sort of, magic and the aether and this sort of unseen realm. They're often associated with the basic elements of earth. And those are the things that in turn, if your land is clean and your water is clean, you can grow food and you can drink water, and your family and your village and your health and well-being will be, you'll have health and well-being. If you go around and just, basically build a privy right in the gnome mound, then you're not going to be able to grow anything there, and what you grow will be poisoned. So it definitely speaks to some of the relationships, especially that, in earlier cultures people had with their places like Iceland and Ireland and England and parts of Scandinavia and Europe, and, just the idea that their domain was the woods. The dwarves were in the mountains, the nymphs were in the water, and you sort of treated them with a certain amount of reverence and respect in order to ensure that you were also safe. So I think that, it's probably best to heed something like that. I mean, if you can do it, why not? It doesn't seem in anyone's best interest to just, plow through a fairy mound. That doesn't seem like a good idea.
The two times where gnomes really, or any type of little persons really seem to come out to play is in summertime when people are camping. And of course, they go to their campgrounds or their trailer parks where, or their RV parks. That, they'll set up their little gnomes around their cabins or whatever it may be. And at Christmas time, obviously, because of Santa and the elves. But how real, focusing on North America, are these?
Well, gnomes and other fairies especially are considered to be protectors. So they're connected with gardens and connected, and that's what people put they might not even know this is why they're doing it, but they're there to sort of watch over the flowers and the corn or the whatever it is that you've planted. Now I can't remember if we talked about this before, because I know we talked some about gnomes, but I actually had a leprechaun experience when I was a kid, and for many years, I told my mom about it and we've talked about it, but for many years I just I never really told anyone, because, you can talk about seeing your grandfather's ghost and, smelling your friend's perfume at the moment that she died and things like that. And people will be like, oh yeah, okay, I get that. And you can say, I think I saw something weird flashing in the sky. And people say, oh yeah, I think I might have seen something weird too. But when you say, well, I saw a leprechaun down by a creek, people definitely, look at you sideways like, those aren't real, right? So I think that they are real, and I think that we envision them as being something that, we would expect it to be. It's almost as if they're not in like another dimension, but their world parallels ours, and people who can see them and have encounters with them have a gift. They have the second sight. Not everyone has that. Not everyone can have that experience. And this is also true of people who have paranormal encounters. Even if you are scared or it terrifies you or you are confused by it, the ability to actually get a message from another being and get a message from, a deceased loved one in whatever form that comes in a head scratcher or whatever way that it comes, is really a gift and a blessing, as much as it can kind of terrorize us and confuse us. And I absolutely, I had a couple of strange things happen while I was writing that book about fairies and Pookas and Changelings. I had a couple little strange switches and missing items and lost chapters and things like that, enough to make me think that, something was definitely messing around with me just to prove a lesson. But, I absolutely believe, I don't think they're just hanging out there all the time. Just like I don't think ghosts are hanging out there just ready to come on command. I think they're few and far between. But like anything, not every story you hear is true. Not everything you hear about is real. But I think probably the most important thing for me, and my biggest sort of takeaway when I was writing the book about fairies, was not, we think of this idea of like the fairy tale and it being this sort of unattainable, imaginary thing. And one thing that I realized that actually takes place, and this is maybe not even really the answer that we're going for here, or that you're an answer to your question, but when you are sort of lost in that story, somebody's telling you a story, you are recounting a story, you are thinking about an experience, you're reading a story. During that time, whether you believe it at the end or not, during that time, if it's told right, if the story's written right, you keep reading because you want to know what's going to happen. And for that moment, your doubts are suspended. And when that happens, I think something really powerful happens to our minds creatively and our ability to sort of work out other problems in our lives and in other aspects of our existence. And so I think that not only are fairy and folk tales and creatures valuable because they can teach us lessons about ourselves, but they're actually vital for us to survive as a evolved species. Because without that, are these things real? Without that question and that seeking, what do we have? Just as a scientist is forever trying to figure out if, they can alter cells or find a cure to a disease or, see what's out in space, someone who is interested in folk and fairy lore might be forever seeking, that real encounter or the understanding that the tale itself is the actual experience. So, and my other thing is that I do want to say that we spend a lot of time dismissing stories that have their origins in indigenous cultures and First Peoples, and we spend a lot of time dismissing those things and saying, oh, well, that's a fairy tale, that's a folk tale, and we sort of classify it somewhere else apart from history, and we sort of put it back. Oh, that's nice. This is cute and amusing to read, but that couldn't possibly be real. And yet, in these stories are the beginnings of culture and the beginnings of relationships, and so we spend too much time dismissing what is right in front of us in order to, put something else under a microscope. So I definitely found that to be true. And, for me, a lot of my personal interest lies in Irish folklore. And I could see all of the way that different people wrote about the stories. I could see the ethnocentrism in there. I could see the recounting of, also with the werewolves, and there's this whole book that I read on the life of the Scandinavian werewolf, and just there's all this.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on. Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on. We are going to go out to our break here at the top of the hour number 3. We got another 30 minutes with Varla Ventura right after this on Spaced Out Radio. At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Story Box. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Peak Woo tomorrow night on the show. R. Keith Andrews is back with the ET Connection. All things alien on the table tomorrow night, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cryptorchidism. Cryptorchidism is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, soon shop at our brand new store, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. For the final time tonight, we introduce Varla Ventura. Great author. You can get all of her books at any major bookstore, online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, so much more. She is everywhere. She's one of the best. That's why she's on this show. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, right before the break, we were talking about North American legends, whether or not there are gnomes or pixies or whatever hanging around the forest here. Now, if we go to First Nations descent, there are a lot of stories outside in the United States through the Cherokee that there are actually clans of little people in the mountains. And they are tricksters, they are hoaxsters, they don't like to be bothered. Up here in British Columbia, we have them too, as I know of a couple different areas where they are said to have little villages up in the mountains. Have you ever studied those?
Well, I certainly have heard some of the stories and read a number of, collections of stories that have included encounters with little people or, sometimes referred to as like good people. And just as many little people, I have also read stories of giants, and they're probably about as common as many little people stories as there are stories of sort of these giant races of, creatures that usually live on or near a mountain or somewhere near where people are, making their semi-permanent home or permanent home. But there's definitely, I know there's some sort of maybe almost dwarf-like descriptions that I've read that, they're sort of, they're little and kind of, I'm not quite sure if lumpy is the right word, but sort of stone-like in a way, and kind of, craggy and furry in a way that you might think of a dwarf. And a handful of other, I know actually in the, sort of further up north from here, so up in the UP, kind of up the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is on the shore of Lake Superior, there are a number of supernatural creatures and a lot of stories about, everything from the Gitchigumi and the sea serpents to little people who live in the woods not far from there that, travel by canoe. What's interesting is that I think specifically in Ireland and in Wales and Scotland as in North America, a lot of these little people the fear is just sort of more of a reverence or a understanding that they deserve respect and that they're often looked toward for protection or for luck, and very frequently found in mountains, in mines. And this is interesting because in Ojibwe culture, there may be, something that is found in a mountain that's a little being that they looks after children. And then in Cornwall, you have these similar creatures that are in the mines that look after the miners. And there's a very interesting mashup in that part of the country because there were a lot of Cornish miners who came and settled in that area. And so you had sort of the Ojibwe culture and the Cornish culture with very similar understanding. And so I think that the Cornish sort of understood and would make offerings to these, whether you want to call them Tommy knockers or little dwarves or things that they believed were there because they were there in Cornwall, and that the Ojibwe had said were always in these in the mountains in that area. Or the hills, I should say. There aren't as many mountains.
During our Paracon this year, I met with the former chief of the First Nations band here, a gentleman named John Archie. And he has actually invited myself, David Weatherly, and a couple others up into the mountains this summer, where he is going to take us up the mountains, and maybe this spring, if the snow is melted, take us up to the mountains to show us this little people's community.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a nice invite.
I am willing to open the door to you if you would like to come along.
Invite self along. I was actually just going to say, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so apparently, as the legend goes, in order to get to where this little people community is, and these, apparently, they're a friendly little people community, which is kind of strange because you don't normally hear that. But apparently, in order to get to them, you have to be able to get permission from the spirit grizzly bear that walks the trail. And when you drive up to where you can no longer drive up to anymore, there's kind of a dead end up there, and then you got to make the hike. There will be the spirit of a grizzly bear that meets you there. And if the grizzly bear says you can pass, or your group can pass, or a couple members of your group can pass, then you can go up to the little people community. If not, then you got to turn around and go away. So we're going to try that this spring.
Cool. Who's going to be the interpreter? Are you just going to know? Like, who's going to be the interpreter of the grizzly?
Mr. Archie will be the interpreter if they're speaking in native tongue.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow. That's a big deal to have an invite like that to somewhere so magical and sacred.
Well, the interesting part about it. The interesting part about it is he was very interested in our Paracon that we held up here. And I asked him about paranormal and more so Bigfoot in his First Nations area, because they have the largest First Nation in this part of British Columbia. And he was like, oh, no, not really Bigfoot. But then all of a sudden you turn the conversation to aliens. And holy cow, that's where it starts to get real. Very real. Like some people don't even walk around at night because the Space Brothers are coming to take them.
So this is something that has actually come up for me quite a few times since really getting into heavily researching the fairies and things, and that is that there are these experiences that we sometimes, I think, mistake as being, a poltergeist or a ghostly encounter. and it's much more likely that it's a supernatural creature of some kind or a supernatural encounter. There have been descriptions of fairy creatures and goblins that sound so much like descriptions that people have been abducted by aliens. So I think there's just something, again, we kind of talked about this a bit earlier, just that, the truth is on X-Files, the truth is out there, but the truth is right in front of us. We call it something different. We want to call it something different. We want to call it that it's, a poltergeist and not a little goblin. We want to say that it's an alien abduction and not, a space brother from the sky. We have these terms that we've sort of accepted as like the way that we should be thinking of these things in the modern paranormal community. And I think that we have such a great opportunity to understand the connection between different cultures and different different stories that explain the same thing or call something different. You see that all the time with something like someone calls it a goblin and someone else calls it a leprechaun and someone else calls it a gnome, but everybody calls it a fairy. So there's just all of these different kind of words for the same thing. And I think that's definitely an unexplored aspect of the sort of modern paranormal experiences, are looking to where did you have that experience? What are the original stories from this area? Who are the original people and what did they say? And this actually completely came up. So in my paranormal book, one of the more disturbing stories is a story that a friend of mine told me about having this sort of moaning creature-like thing sort of traverse up the canyon toward his house and get closer and closer and rattle his windows and shake the things that were on the windowsill, and then the sound sort of just truncating and stopping. And it was over this kind of, 10-minute period in which it just kept getting closer and closer. In an area where he had lived his whole life, he had never heard anything like that, had never been able to explain it, can't explain it since. And he, so this is in Northern California, and he had been at I think it was a indigenous peoples gathering, and there in that part of California are the Nisinan, and he heard a couple stories, and then he actually he heard this guy telling a story, and he bought his book, and a lot of the book was about just sort of the socioeconomic kind of background of the peoples and, how they evolved and what they were doing today and these kinds of things. But also in there were a few stories of, just different kinds of stories describing beliefs. And one of them described this creature that made this sound. And that is where, and it was where he lives, one of the band of this sort of Bigfoot-like giant creature, which would occasionally come into an area home and steal a wife or something, and then therefore be able to procreate and continue, was just literally right down the canyon from from his house now. So right there where he heard the sound coming up from. And he has lived there all his life. He's in his 40s. He had never heard, and he's also an archaeologist and studied a lot about, First Peoples of California and the indigenous culture. It's specific to the area where we grew up. And he had never heard this story. And when he read it, he said he got chills because he realized that was the closest description. And he, since it happened, it's sort of tormenting him a little bit. What was that? How could that have happened? And, what was this sort of experience that he had? Was it a Bigfoot? And, what was it? A Sasquatch? It didn't make sense. And then he read this description, and then he called me up and read it to me because I'd written about it in the book, but we had never found any explanation of it. And he read me this description from this man's book, and it was as close of a description as, we could have found, with the way that the sound carried, the low tone of it, the way that it sort of just truncated and stopped, and there was no echo, and a few of the other details. So I'm just glad he didn't go out, and glad his girlfriend wasn't on the property that night. Because that was a great example of, like, you're looking all over trying to find this explanation, and then it's actually the answer is right in front of you, but you just have to know where to look and who to ask and who to listen to, I guess.
How much do you think that we as society really need to get pen to paper, fingers to keyboard to some of these amazing First Nations legends that are out there? Never mind Bigfoot. Everybody's heard about Bigfoot, but there are some incredible stories out there that I think the general public would be completely amazed by. Stories that we have never heard before. It would probably send the cryptid world into a frenzy. How important would that story be?
I think that would be a very valuable contribution to just culture in general. But what I would like to see is actually, I would like to see an Indigenous person recording these, someone of the First Nation recording these stories and talking about these stories and being able to give that unique cultural perspective. And I think what is of most value, and what somehow we haven't quite learned in 250 years, is how valuable knowledge that is. Not just because it will sort of explain some unknown answers, but it will sort of reverse the tendency to suppress that ideology and that belief system, and therefore it will create an atmosphere of sort of open-mindedness that will spill over into other areas. Earlier we talked about something being easily dismissed because it sounds like it's a legend or legend, and sometimes you do have to peel away layers to get to the truth. But at any legend or any story, at its core, there is a truth there, and I absolutely believe that. And I believe that that's very true with stories of First Peoples and stories of Indigenous cultures around the world that are not told. And the thing is what we don't need is, we don't need more people misrecording them. We need more people listening to those stories. And I think that would be an incredible value and an incredible contribution to the paranormal community, because it would explain so many, it maybe not explain, but it would certainly give some validation to people who have been, experiencing these things their whole life, and no one believes them because they think that there's no way a Bigfoot could exist, or things of that nature.
I understand that, and I see that it would have to take some culmination with somebody of First Nations descent to get that book done. Because, you're going to have to convince a lot of people, Indigenous people, to allow these stories to be printed, because for centuries now they have been laughed at, scorned, vilified for what people of Caucasian descent consider just hokey, made-up folklore, whereas these are serious stories, almost religious to them and their survival.
And I think then if there's a sort of monetary element to it, then that would, the money would need to be going toward something that, contributes back to that community. I think we're all probably pretty sensitive. I know we certainly are in the U.S. of, the sort of egregious cultural appropriation that has been taking place here for so many, many years. And, that doesn't mean that people of all races can't contribute to the same collective story. It just means that when we're doing that, we need to take into account, more of the telling and less of the as told to, which is, I'm a total as told to person. I love when people tell me stories, and I love hearing their stories. But when I write stories, for example, in the Paranormal Parlor book, I interviewed several people, and I wrote down, they told me their stories, and I just wrote it down longhand, and then I typed it up and sent it back to them because I wanted that experience of hearing the stories. I wanted that that, I don't know, that thing that just happens when someone's telling you a great story and you get lost in that moment. I wanted to experience that before I just put it down on paper. So I think that, that would be an amazing gift.
It totally would. And I would just like to hear some of these legends that maybe none of us have ever heard of. We've heard of skinwalkers. We've heard of Bigfoot. We've heard of, shape-shifting shaman. We've heard of, the winds and the mountains, and everything has a story. But I'm sure there are legends and lore out there from the First Nations that we can't even comprehend. And maybe, just maybe, those would hold the keys, as we got about 2 minutes left with you. Those stories would hold the keys to some of these experiences people are having.
Yeah, and quite possibly could put Krampus to shame. The least of your concerns would be Krampus.
Exactly. Speaking of Krampus, I want to get one more question in. This one's from Uncle Dale, who has a great mustache. We always got to pay homage to his mustache. And Dale is saying, is Krampus of terrestrial origin? And how about elves, goblins, gnomes, and more gnomes? Are they all terrestrial?
Just trying to say gnomes. I think so. I think they sort of, I don't know if it's really that easy to define. The way that I see the fairy kingdom is sort of almost like another bubble right on top of what we see and what we feel. So it's coexisting with it. And it's not necessarily like a interdimensional kind of thing. It's more just like a big orb with like some fairy stuff superimposed on top of human stuff, superimposed on top of fairy stuff. And so I think of, Krampus in that same way, that these kind of, the goat-footed god and the pagan goat gods and things like that, are terrestrial because they are they're part of human nature and part of human culture. And so they're part of us, just as, we need these sort of,
yes.
we need this excuse to put on the head and run wildly put on the mask and run wildly through the streets. So I do think that they're kind of more like us than not.
Varla, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We got to go to break here, but what a pleasure. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to say thank you to you. I really appreciate coming back, and it was a great night. Thanks, Dave.
Anytime. Ola Phillips from Paranoia Magazine coming up next with the SOR Newswire.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Music. We've rounded third. We are heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Glad to have you with us as we get to the SOR Newswire. And from Paranoia Magazine, we have the man, the myth, the Team Stump legend, Mr. Olaf Phillips. The news is always changing. That's why we bring you the SOR Newswire each and every single night on this show. And with Wood to read it all off, usually something weird from Florida, is Mr. Olaf Phillips, editor, owner of Paranoia Magazine. Olaf, welcome back.
Greetings and salutations.
Greetings and salutations. Nice. Nice intro, man.
I thought I'd be formal.
Now, dude, I'm going to tell you this. We are going to have to race through the news today because in today's Thought of the Dave, I had over 127 comments alone on Facebook.
Well, let's get to it.
No, we got to get to the news first because I need my Florida fix. Tell me you have a Florida fix.
I have a Florida fix for you.
Nice. All right. I'm excited.
Okay, but the first one is from Washington State. I hope
perfect.
That's okay.
No, that works for me.
Man replies to his own police wanted post on Facebook, and it's hilarious. I'm going to skip to the long and the short of it. Recently, the Richland, Washington Police Department made a post on Facebook asking for information about a wanted man, 38-year-old Anthony Akers. In response, the wanted man himself made a comment assuring police he was going to turn himself in. He said, "Calm down, I'm going to turn myself in." The police responded, "Hey, Anthony, we haven't seen you yet. Our business hours are from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Or, of course, if you need a ride, you can call the non-emergency number, and we will come and pick you up." So everybody waited, and they waited, and they waited. And then he replied, "Thank you. Tying up a couple loose ends, since I will probably be in there for a month. Should be there in the next 48 hours. Somebody asked, did he do it? He did not. So he replied, "Dear RPD, it's not you, it's me. I obviously have commitment issues. I apologize for standing you up, but let me make it up to you. I will be there no later than lunchtime tomorrow. I know you have no reason to believe me after what I did to you, but I promise that if I don't make it on my own by lunchtime tomorrow, I will call for a ride to assist me with my commitment issues. Thank you in advance to your response if you are patiently giving me another chance with us. I know I don't deserve it. P.S. You're beautiful. And guess what? He turned himself in.
Really? Good for him.
Yeah.
Gave himself some accountability.
He took a photo of himself. Let me find it. And he took a photo of himself, and he says, "Here for our date, sweetheart." It shows him in front of a police station.
Hey, you always got to get in that one final post before you go into the slammer.
Oh, yeah. We had to tie up some loose ends.
Exactly.
All right, you ready?
Exactly.
You ready for Florida news?
Yeah, let's get to Florida. I need my Florida fix.
Yulee man hit with taser after he urinates on the road. In Nassau County, man was hit with a shot from a taser after he was observed urinating in the road, deputies said. Larry Brussel, 44, was spotted urinating in the median at some road you don't care about. A deputy made contact with Brussel, but Brussel was combative and challenged a deputy to shoot him, the arrest report said. After Brussel cursed at the officer, the deputy backed away, but Brussel kept advancing, the report said. This part's hilarious. The deputy deployed his taser with positive effect, the report said. Brussel was struck in the stomach and was fully locked. The report said that Brussel eventually calmed down. After he was placed in the squad car later, he agreed to make a statement. Brussel was charged with exposing sex organs and disorderly intoxication.
Well, good for him. Good for him. Why not just move him to the side? Why not just move him to the side and say, can you just get off the road and take a pee? Like find a tree like normal people to hide behind?
Well, I think that's, to their credit, I think that's the direction it was trying to go. But he became combative. He's like, no, I'm going to pee in the middle of the street. You're not going to stop me. If you don't like it, shoot me. So they did.
Wow. Unbelievable. Like, I would never want to be tased. Now, my sister's a corrections officer. She's had to go through the whole taser thing. She said it ain't fun. And that's about as close as getting a tasering as I want.
That's, that's an electric fence?
Oh, exactly. Same. No, I would never do that. I mean, as a kid, you did it, because I lived in a farming community. And, electric fence, you got to touch it, and you get zapped, and you scream, you shake it off, and then for some stupid reason, you do it again because your buddies dared you to.
You know what I don't like about electric fences? Is that when you touch it, you can hear it, and you can't let go, and you hear it go, zzz. I hate that. I hate it. I touched one electric fence. That was enough to cure me of that curiosity for the rest of my life.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear
you.
You
obviously did it more than once.
Yeah, I was dumb that way. Not going to lie. I think we got time for one more before we got to get into the thought of the Dave. People are fired up about it, man.
Ohio State students get bacon vending machine. Ohio State University students are being treated to an unusual snacking option for finals week thanks to the new bacon vending machine. The Ohio Pork Council, a trade group of Ohio pork producers, installed a vending machine at the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Science that dispenses cooked, ready-to-eat Smithfield, Hormel, or Sugardale bacon. Proceeds from the machine, which charges $1 for a strip of bacon or a handful of bacon bites, is being donated to the school's meat science program. Now, the thing I enjoyed about this is not only that they have a vending machine that freely dispenses bacon, I also like the fact that the money went to the meat sciences department. Because who doesn't want to major in meat sciences? You got to love that.
Well, first I got to correct you. It's not Ohio State. All of the people who go to Ohio State are going to be like, come on, Olaf, the Ohio State. The.
I'm not from Ohio.
I know, but you got to get the in there.
We
One
have
of my
the
good
Cal
friends.
Bears.
I know, but one of my good friends played at the Ohio State.
Okay, the Ohio State, and
There
we
you
have
go.
the Cal Bears. The Bears are our big thing here, although it's not that big to me. But they're the important one, is the Bears.
Yeah, that's great.
But come on, you're missing it. They have a bacon.
I know they have. This should be.
Yeah.
This should be at every street corner around the world. Around the world, there should be. Oh my God, I'm so hungry for bacon now.
And they have a meat sciences department. You can major in meat sciences. How awesome is that?
Bringing a tear to my eye, my friend. Bringing a tear to my eye.
Dude, I got it all wrong. I majored in anthropology and sociology. What was I thinking? I could have majored in science.
Imagine how much meat you would be able to eat right now. You would know everything about it.
I went to an ag school. I went to Davis. It's an ag school. We didn't have a meat sciences department. We did have fermentation science, though. That's what everybody wanted to major in. We had a fermentation science major.
I would love to have the titles, because I'm all into the self-titling thing. I would love to be called a baconologist.
You know what? You are a baconologist.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This makes me so happy going into the Thought of the Dave.
Do it.
Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we post a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages during the day, then we read your responses on the air. So today's Thought of the Dave, we got a little controversial today, Olaf. We did. Sparked almost 200 responses on both Twitter and Facebook. It's good for us. What's your thoughts on the baby it's cold outside controversy? So I had to give a good finger shaking right off the bat, because remember last night I was kind of having a little bit of a meltdown that everybody was giving one-word answers and memes or GIFs. First two responses, memes. It's like, come on. All right, Emmett. I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a lot of support for those. It doesn't matter what side of the political agenda you are on, but for those who are complaining about this song, there's not a lot of support. Emmett says, you listen to or approve of rap music that calls women bitches and hoes, but you are offended by Baby It's Cold Outside. WTF. Charles, I think it's a load and a reach in regards to being about a prejudice, etc. Eric, I think political correct BS has gone too damn far. Reverend Keith, it is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Another Keith, I'm waiting for the version by Chris Hansen on this to catch a Snowman album. Tony, they have a point. It's a song about a guy trying to convince a girl to stay longer and feeding her booze to make it easier. There are thousands of others that are worse, but they are correct about this song. That being said, I don't think it should be banned. John, I see their point, but it just seems everyone is offended by about something these days. It seems like people are actively out there looking for stuff to complain about or be offended about more than ever before. Dale, I think it's propaganda inserted by a party that wants to divide us. Sandra, it's an adult Christmas song. Tina, it's BS. It's a wonderful old song about a dating couple. I'm old, she puts in brackets. I think the political correctness has gone way too far. Just chill, people. Sorry, I wrote it. She only used a two-word answer, but she expanded on it. Stunak, says, absolutely ridiculous. Censorship. Just what we need. People making decisions for us. Really? Is there nothing more pressing in the world today? Richard, this is a powerful thing. If you look at the trend over the last few years, how just about everything people talk about is becoming offensive and therefore off limits. It does many things. 1, it's a clever way to censor us. 2, isolation. 3, complete destruction of social contact as people will be tired or afraid to say anything because it may offend them. Joe, the song was written during World War II, back when people were offended by things like their entire town being burned to the ground in a bombing raid and entire races of people being exterminated. People were offended by death and the fall of civilization. Anybody offended by the words to this song today should be skewered by a pointy stick. How do you really feel, Joe? Let's get to Cherish. To be honest, whenever some stupid controversy like this pops up, I wonder what they're trying to divert our attention to from now. Feminists have been around for over a century. This song is 80 years old. Is it a diversion? Is it something started to paint the Me Too movement in a bad light? I don't know, but I don't think it's about the song. Maria, I think it's silly because the meaning was different from when the song was written. And people need to understand history before they can actually think this has anything to do with rape or whatever they are implying. The song was written in a time where it was inappropriate for a woman to be left alone in a room with a man or out on a non-escorted date. It was more to do with the appearances of what it would look like to others being left in a room with a man, but secretly the woman's desire to be there with his company, having a laugh and a drink, and want to blame it on the wine. Natasha, I was just discussing this with my son-in-law. I'm somewhat torn because on the one hand, I feel that some elements of outrage culture are taking things too far. That being said, if you read the lyrics, it's pretty much a roadmap for date rape. That sparked a conversation, not going to lie. Andrea, for anyone still confused about this song, it's about two lovers playing a game of cat and mouse. The woman is a willing participant, flirtatious, playing hard to get. It was written by a husband and wife to sing at parties, a husband and wife. I don't think in 1944 a wife would help write a song about date rape. Aaron, I think it's ridiculous. It's one of my favorite Christmas songs, and I feel people are way too sensitive about stuff these days. Put your big girl panties on, people. That was female Aaron, by the way, not male Aaron. John, it's a song. If anyone has a problem with that, they can change the channel. Bob, just like statues, animal crackers, even red-nosed reindeer, it's getting nuts out there. Jenny, as others have already said, it's been taken out of cultural context. It is banter between two consenting adults with a woman trying to save face by feigning protest. Dorothy, next they will want to ban Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer because they will say it is elderly abuse.
I love that song.
So do I. Jamie says it's a scam. Caden says, I think that anyone that has an issue with the song but doesn't have an issue with rap, rock and roll, or even some country songs should jump off the bandwagon. It's a song. Much larger issues than a song. Randall, no more playing guitar on the MTV, eh? Well, I think the song has more significance now than ever. I'm told about a time not long ago where men could walk down the street and grab anyone by the bum, and it was totally accepted. And this generation still lives, and that story was told to by my dad. So what do you think happened to me when I went to school the next day and did the same thing? Yeah, he got smacked. Matthew, I think there are worse songs on radio that should be banned, especially Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney. I was thinking more anything Mariah Carey when she gets howling like a banshee. Dawn, when did it exactly become okay to erase or change history? David, he's got a great mustache. Call it the lip blade. He says it's global laming. Andrew, I'm not going to get into that one. It's too long. Brett, it's a great post. This one's kind of being spread around. It's about different songs. I highly suggest you check it out. You've probably already seen it. Brett, wow, just Googled what the beef is. There goes all the good old James Bond movies with Sean Connery, even though all of his hot villain ladies practice the art of seduction also. Women are players, too, in my experience. So this hubbub is the same recycled 70s political tactics updated for this butthurt generation. That is all. Little Mikey Morin, we call him Merle around here. Merle is saying it's not even a controversy. I think people need to get a helmet, harden up, and not be offended at everything. Life is only as offensive as you make it. Vanessa, it's propaganda, yet for some reason people don't realize it. As I posted on my page, as of 2011, or less than 300 executives controlled major media of the world of almost 8 billion. It's all manipulation. Gail, oh, for Pete's sake. You can see the angry granny coming out. Oh, for Pete's sake. That's Captain Shirk from our news team. Oh, for Pete's sake. It's just a song. That's my angry granny there. Oh, for Pete's sake. I think that's great.
Not bad.
Thank you. Jan, give us a break. It's a musical flirtation, usually sung in a duet. As rightly pointed out, today, music has a large amount of downright disrespect towards women. Renee, I am offended by younger generation turning everything into a bloody controversy and being offended by everything. And yet I see stuff on TV, movies, and radio that is more offensive than couples in the 1940s singing a song that was part of the party time of that generation. And that's where we got to leave it off. We ran out of time. I'm missing a ton of these. Olive, where can people find Paranoia Magazine?
ParanoiaMagazine.com.
Right on. And you can find the SOR Newswire by clicking on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Click on the news banner. It's all right there for you. We want to say thank you to Varla Ventura for coming on. She'll be back on in February. Hear that, Goddess Michelle? February. Just for you. Tomorrow night on the show, get ready to board the Woo train with R. Keith Andrews and the ET Connection, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Listening to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Big thank you to all of you in the chat rooms on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and everybody listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Thank you for tuning us in. Thank you for being a friend of this show, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.